all of my experiences from 2003 to 2007 or 8, it took all of that to realize this is the thing that like really gets my juices flowing, right? And I wouldn't have figured that out if it weren't for all of those crash and burns and experiences of good, bad, otherwise to get to that point.
Let's go.
Welcome to Building Bigfoot. I am excited today. So we're with Josh Schoenly. If you don't know Josh Schoenly, you are in for a treat. So Josh Schoenly is an author, influencer. He's massive in the real estate space. He's a tech pioneer, I would say. Literally, if there was a digital trend in the last decade, Josh has had his finger on the pulse before people even realized it was like the idea had even become a reality yet. So this is so Josh is an awesome guy. I've personally gotten to know you a little bit in the last few years, and I've enjoyed every time I've got to hear you speak or have a conversation with you. And yeah, so this is, without further ado, I'm really excited to welcome Josh. So Building Bigfoot, obviously this is the podcast where it's about building your business profitably. And if you're building a business and you're self-funded, you're not a unicorn, you're a Bigfoot. Let's get in. All right,
I appreciate
Josh.
that. And I
Why
had to
don't you
laugh when you
introduce
said a
yourself?
tech pioneer, because I'm imagining my children hearing me introduced as a tech pioneer and they would be rolling. And I'm like, no, really, I am. You can't even figure out the whatever. Anyway, so I appreciate the introduction, and I'm excited to be here and share my story and hopefully inspire and encourage and maybe motivate some folks.
Well, Josh, why don't you share a little bit about, like, I'd love to know. Obviously, you know, you've written books, you've done a lot of things. Like, where did that come from? Did you always know, like, as a kid, that this was something like you were going to get into business, that you were going to be like you had this entrepreneurial, this passion for it?
Definitely not. In fact, my parents. So my parents have always been entrepreneurial. They've always owned their own businesses. Like literally, I think the only time my dad has been an employee, quote unquote, was for my grandfather. My mom's dad employed him for a short period of time. It didn't last very long. So they were always very entrepreneurial, always self-employed, but it wasn't. I wasn't ever really like, I don't know. It just didn't seem like that was my path. And in fact, when I got started as an entrepreneur, like my parents just thought it was hilarious, right? Like thinking back to the way that I don't know, the way I was in elementary school and high school. I mean, I went to college to be a health and phys ed teacher. And I did that for about 5.5 years. And I think what struck me, or what sort of got me interested in a different, better way than the path I was on. I remember reading, there were two books when I was, I don't know, 20, the early 20s, that really changed my life. One was some real estate investing book, and the name will he was, one of the guys on TVs. The name will come to me. But the other big one was Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. I had a friend of the family recommend reading that, and it totally changed. Like it just was like, I don't know, that book just screamed at me in ways that I just was like, it made me question everything that I thought about the world. And then I remember very vividly.
So what was it that you sorry
No, that's
to
good.
what was it that you questioned? Like, what, like, I remember that book too. It had a profound impact. I'm
It
just
just made
curious.
me think. I just, you know, so here, this will tie in what I was about to say. I remember looking at we one of the places that I taught, we were I can't remember if we went on strike or we were going to go on strike. And I remember I never really like looked at our contract, and I remember opening it up and seeing a grid basically telling me my worth for the rest of my teaching career. Like, if you have taught for this many years and you have this level of education, this is what you're going to be paid. And I just remember thinking and tying that to the lessons of Rich Dad Poor Dad and thinking, there's no way I'm spending the next 30 years of my life, 35, 40 years, whatever, just being dictated what my value is. I want to go out and create more value. Um, and yeah, just like that, those were like revelations for me. And so I got started. And I guess I'll also tie in another story. By just sheer luck and timing of the market, the first house my wife and I bought, we sold 15 months later and made like some crazy amount of money, just again, by luck. But I remember getting that check and thinking, this is more than I made the last year teaching. Right. And then we did it again, more luck than anything, but we did it again. Like we bought a house and sold it 10 months later and made again more than I was making in a year. So I was like, maybe there's something on this real estate front. So I got started part-time more on the real estate investing side. And when my oldest son, who is now 16, which is crazy, when he was born, I took paternity leave from my teaching position, which was funny because my principal had no idea that you could even take paternity leave. Like he knew that there was maternity leave, but I was like, no, it's in the contract here. I can take paternity leave. And my thought was, he was born in November, and I took paternity leave for the rest of the year. And then with the summer, it gave me basically 9 months to see if I could, if I could make it work and not have to come back to that position. And I never did. I never have. In that time, I transitioned from being a real estate investor full time, quote unquote, to getting licensed, working primarily with real estate investors early on in my career as an agent. But what I realized through all of that was the stuff that I was most passionate about, what most excited me, what was most like, I'm very competitive, right? I went to school to be a health and PE teacher. I thought during college that I was going to teach phys ed and coach baseball for the rest of my life, right? Until I had that epiphany, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and all that stuff. That's what I thought I was going to be doing. And, I'm very competitive. And for me, what came to the surface of what like was my sport, or what got those competitive juices flowing for me, was marketing. Was how do I use words or advertisements or even video to take someone that doesn't have any idea who I am and turn them into a client. And I think some of that was spawned by, I remember, the first network marketing business I ever tried, because I've done all kinds of different businesses and so forth, and getting the little sheet that's like your top 200 list, right? Like write down 200 names of people that so you can ask them to be a customer or try and recruit them, right? And I remember thinking, this doesn't seem like work I want to really be doing. And when I got licensed, the first broker, like my onboarding meeting with him, he did the same thing. And I'm like, there's got to be a better, like, I understand trying to get business from people that already know, like, and trust you, but that's not how businesses are scaled. That's not how, like, when you look at, street text, for example, like if you guys only got customers from people that personally, like it would have petered out pretty quick, right? So having ways, building out client acquisition funnels or pipelines, like that was, I don't know, 2007, 8, like that's where I sort of fell in love with that. And I started creating training around that. And really I was documenting what I was doing to build my own business, because I used the strategies that I was teaching back then to go from brand new agent to I was rookie of the year my first year. I sold the most houses in the brokerage. Now it wasn't it was a small independent brokerage, so it wasn't like a huge number, but like, I don't know, in my second year I sold 46 or 48 houses, something like that, and it was primarily people that had no idea who I was, um, you know, 3, 6, 9 months ago. And some of that was necessity because my wife and I moved to an area where she grew up, but I didn't have, it's not where I grew up. So I didn't have any real sphere of influence, and certainly didn't have any past clients, et cetera. So anyway, fell in love with that. And then over the years, I built several companies, coaching, training around those ideas of client acquisition systems and pipelines and funnels. And then went back to actively selling real estate in 2019 to get back to practicing what I had been preaching or coaching for quite some time.
So that that's such interesting story. And so there's a bunch of things you said on there that like I had never thought of or connected in the way that you described it. So you obviously love sports, you love baseball. Like baseball is an interesting sport because you have like you are a critical component of the team, but it's also a team
Yeah.
sport. So it's both the sum of the players, but every individual player matters a
Yep.
lot. And so you were able to take um, that competitive nature of yours that obviously found so much joy in baseball. And I know that you're still actively part of baseball. Your son's plays, your kids are all
Yeah.
playing, and they're obviously doing really well. Your son is playing football too, right?
He is. Yep.
Um,
Yep.
yeah, so your kids are like obviously following closely behind you. The so you're taking that competitive nature and you're putting it into a philosophy around marketing, and I can it's interesting. I can relate to that in an interesting way because I'm also really like I'm naturally fueled by competition. Like I love it. I'm one of those competitive people that I get as excited when somebody else wins as I do when
Sure.
I win. I don't know if
Yeah.
that makes sense, but that's partially because of the fact that for me, I'm like if somebody's out there and they're crushing it and they win, like they did something amazing. I'm
Yeah.
so stoked for them. But there's nothing inside of me that doesn't want to come first. So it's just like push, 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 and then like if I die falling over the finish line and someone else wins, I'm gonna go congratulate them because I'm stoked
Absolutely.
for them. Um, the but that competitive nature, putting it into something like marketing, I never tied that together the way you
Well,
just
and here,
described it.
here's
It
where
makes
it.
sense why it's so
Yeah.
fun.
I mean, here's like for me, I am excited to get up and do that work. Right. It's something that, and I will say, like my wife, there has been many times where my wife has felt jealous because the stuff I do excites me and fills me up, or what I spend most of my time on, let's say, anyway, right? We all have stuff that we kind of have to do that whatever is, but the majority of what I do is joyful for me and it gives me energy. And my wife would not, she wouldn't have a problem with me saying that. Like there have been times where that has been something that if nothing else, she wishes that she felt more like that about what she does, as what I do. And so I feel
But
very
did you
for
feel
that.
that way? That's like that's incredible, Josh. Like that's um I love hearing that. Now, did you feel that way when you were in like when you were teaching phys ed?
um yeah, that's a great question. I would say no, not 100%. Anyway, I loved the kids and I still love kids, and I have been, though I haven't taught for 16 and a half years now, or whatever it is, however old my son is, my oldest is, I still coach lots of things. So I still coach lots of youth sports. Like this spring, I'm coaching my youngest daughter's softball team. And I still, like, I'm kind of like my oldest son's personal, hitting coach and stuff. But I also view a lot of what I do as also that coaching role, right? My own sales organization and so forth. So I get that, I get that fulfillment from that. But I can't say that I was excited to wake up in the morning when I was teaching as I do, to get up and tackle the day most days now.
Yeah, and what is like if you were to think about it as a um, you know an XY axis. Do you know like what that collision is? Like where's the like what's caused like how have you found that sweet spot? Like the passion for you? Maybe you've thought
Well,
about this.
I wouldn't have found the passion if I didn't, it took me years to realize that, right? Like I wouldn't have found that if, or all of my experiences for from 2003 to 2007 or 8, it took all of that to realize this is the thing that like really gets my juices flowing, right? And I wouldn't have figured that out if it weren't for all of those crash and burns and experiences of good, bad, otherwise to get to that point. And being exposed to different people and even understanding that like that is a thing, right? Like marketing and being compensated for that knowledge and that expertise was even that's certainly not something I was aware of in 2003, 4, or even 5, right? So all of those collective experiences led to the point of realizing this is the thing that actually I'm best at, I think, and certainly excites me, so that if I'm not the best at it now, it's exciting enough that I'll want to keep getting better at it, right? Because that's the other thing. And I'll say very transparently,
Yeah, that makes so
yeah.
much
I mean,
sense.
no
Yes.
one that I will share something here that has only been shared in our household, only because I doubt it will ever get back to anyone. You know, Eh, my son. You mentioned my oldest. He plays football and baseball. He loves baseball. He likes football, right? And football to him feels more like a job. Baseball is
Mm.
joyful for him. He likes all of it. He loves practice. He loves extra practice. He loves the grind of it. Football, he likes Friday nights. Doesn't love the rest of it, right? And for me, I realized that I like representing clients and selling houses. I still do it. I love marketing. I love all of it. I love all the nitty gritty. I love the grind of it, right? And so, um, understanding that, finding that for yourself, and understanding that for yourself, I think is. Um, I feel very blessed to have realized that when I have, because I know there are many people that never find that or that struggle with that until my mom still kind of struggles. She's just like, you know, I don't know what I should do with my life. And my mom's twice my age, or not twice my age, but a lot older than me, And so I feel blessed to have realized that when I did. And listen, I've had loads of bumps and bruises along the way, and it hasn't always been rainbows and unicorns, that's for sure. But um, this what I've been able to do has also afforded me the opportunity to do the things. I realized once we started having kids, I didn't want to miss anything, and we have so many now that it's impossible not to miss some stuff because it's so many overlapping events. But like, there's been very little important benchmarks in their life where I haven't been able to be there, and in many cases
Wow, that's
directly
cool.
participating, whether it be coaching or volunteering or whatever. And that's something that can't ever be taken away, regardless of financial X or Y or Z.
Yeah, no, that is very impactful, obviously, to your kids too. Whether or not they know it, even in the moment, years later, the fruit of that will continue to show up in their own lives.
We
And
hope so. We
yeah,
hope so, and
that's
we hope that it passes down the line as well, right? For them with their
yeah, no,
children as well. Yeah,
that's very cool. So for like moving forward, as you so moving forward, building your business, you find what is really your passion. It's your sweet spot. You're in real estate, you're doing marketing, you're like, hey, digital marketing, this is a ton of fun. It's matching my strengths, my passions, the interests, things I love to do. And like is it immediate success? Like,
Oh,
what
yeah.
happens?
No. I mean, I can tell you, and there's a story in the book. You mentioned that I'm an author. I don't have one of them here. Uh, but I tell the story in the book where, I mean, there was a period of time where it was very, very rough. Um, and like it was looking like we were going to have to move in with my in-laws, like, because I was just not figuring it out and just getting farther and farther behind. And some of that was poor decisions on real estate investments. It was just a compounding avalanche of things. And what got me through that, or what how I came out the other side of that, was doubling down on what I'm good at, right? And cutting the stuff that um where I was trying to shortcut success, for lack of a better term, right? Like just trying to um I don't know, to try and yeah, just to take shortcuts, and also getting outside my level of expertise, and I don't know, trying to do too many things at once, right? Versus singularly focusing on what I'm good at and where I can bring the most value um, to the market. So yeah, no, it was there were some rough times and many sleepless nights, and a acidic pain in the pit of my stomach, like wondering how did I get myself here and how am I going to get out of it? But I did, and I'm grateful for that experience and those lessons learned. I'm better for them. Um, I don't wish that on anyone, but a lot of times we have to go through significant valleys to get to the ultimate destination, or at least to get back on the right path, or the right even figure out the right journey that you want to be on, the right path to be on.
Yeah, that I don't know any entrepreneur who hasn't experienced
Yeah,
that at some point in their life. And uh, even the one that looks like uh, everything's always gone right, if you actually have a conversation with them, you realize no,
yeah,
they, everybody's had this moment where they've been lying in bed and they're just up all night and they're thinking exactly those words. How did I get myself here, and how do I get
yeah,
myself out? And this is uh, this is just a reality, a normal reality um, of yeah, the entrepreneurial journey. And um, actually, I just spoke to a guy. He's in South Africa. He was on the podcast
yeah,
last week, and uh, Aaron Walker, and he's sharing his journey. He's building this uh, software app. It's on the App Store, and uh, he's in that moment right now where he's even himself thinking, is like, is this even
yeah,
worth it?
yeah,
Is it worth the pain? Like, he's having success, he's doing really well, but there's that moment where you wonder. Um, and then I heard a really cool story about the UGG founder, the guy who started UGG shoes. I don't know if you like familiar with
well, I'm
that brand
familiar
or
with the
not,
brand, but I'm not
but
familiar with the backstory.
oh my goodness, it's a wild backstory. I'll share you like an interview of his after this, but it's very cool. But like, he went through that, and then he just made it his like I don't know how you describe it, like benevolent fortitude, if that's the right word. He had this like weird part of his brain that just decided, I'm going to keep going even if it's not in my best interest, my
Yeah,
personal gain. There's no personal gain for me to keep going. But because of that, he ended up taking his business, and now obviously Uggs is $1 billion business. And the but it wasn't a overnight success story. It was 20 years of hard, hard. Like literally, at one point, he owned 0% of Uggs. From the guy who founded it to owning
yeah,
zero. Imagine that, and then waking up and choosing to get off the floor out of depression and say, "No, this is still my passion." To then going back and owning
yeah.
100% of the
That's wild.
company.
That's
So
wild.
like, how does that happen? I'll share you the
Yeah.
story. But yeah, everybody's gone through it. And so so now one of the things you talk about, I actually was watching a video of yours that you recorded a couple years ago, and you were talking about the power of leverage. And now this is something we've spoken in the past about this as well. Like, you have this philosophy around leverage, both when it comes to how to do marketing at scale, and then now you're building like your real estate and the mortgage businesses and the teams, which I want to get into in a second. But first, I want to talk a little bit of leverage. Like, can you describe what leverage means to you, and how you apply that to your marketing approach, and how that's enabling you to do so many things?
The analogy I'd make on the real estate side, well, first of all, I would say that it's of such interest to me because I will describe myself as productively lazy. I'm not afraid to work hard. And there are many times where my wife would prefer I not work as hard as I do. But I also I want to be working at things where I am creating more leverage, or building more, um, uh, growing something versus sort of a hamster wheel or treadmill situation. And real estate has always been, I think there's always been, even today, there's still this idea that if you want to sell more houses, just knock on more doors, make more cold calls, do more pop buys or whatever. And yes, you can get more business like that. And also, when you stop that, it stops. So leverage for me is, what can I do today that will have compounding benefits tomorrow, next week, next month, next quarter, next year, versus
Yeah, 100%.
doing something today where there's immediate gratification, but then tomorrow it's nowhere. So leverage for me is, in the simplest form, in real estate, growing and nurturing a database. Street text is a great way to do that. It's why I started using the platform, whatever, 2.5 years ago or 2 years ago now. I've been using Facebook ads.
But it starts there. It doesn't end there. And I think this is the thing that you've got figured out. That's really, really key, because you can start by implementing a system and start filling your pipeline, but that's not the full story of
Right.
leverage. That's only starting it.
Yeah, I mean, that's yeah, you've got to have multiple layers of leverage, and multiple uh, components to really get the long-term benefit of leverage. And there are, there's leverage through technology, and there's leverage through human capital, or humans doing work. And I think marrying the two is how you really maximize your opportunities. Right? What technology can I leverage? And in fact, as I was scaling my local real estate sales, when I reactivated my license, and I remember during the summer of 2020, I was looking and really assessing, I need more leverage. Am I going to gain that leverage through technology or through hiring people? And ultimately, I ended up doing both. But like, those are, to me, those are the real two ways to create leverage. I guess through other, I guess you could have assets as well. Leverage, I'm sorry, technology, assets, and human capital. But um,
If you're hearing a little bit of banging on the podcast, Josh is
yeah,
getting
sorry, I
excited.
was banging on the table. Um, you know, um, I'm trying to think of how to tie that together with, so I'll give the real estate example with street text. You guys have lots of people that have used the platform over the years. I don't know how many thousands. And so many of them, most of them, have generated leads, right? But they didn't have they didn't have the other systems in place to leverage those opportunities into conversations, into or into appointments, and then into clients, right? And that's where any business you're in, you have to look at the different benchmarks along the way of how do I take someone who isn't familiar with what we do or this brand or how I can service them, and how do I move them along, right? And most people, stop here, and they never figure out how to make up the rest of the gap. And that's why, you know, I don't know, that's why the churn rate in real estate agents is so high. I think number one, and number two, I think it's probably why the churn rate in businesses in general is so high. Is it's really hard. It's easy to get the interest. It's hard to build a predictable machine that over and over and over predictably will take, and turn $1 into $5 or $1 into $2 or $1 into $1.10, and looking at all of finding those leverage points at each step in the way. That's where the magic is at. And that's the difference between, those that fail and the few that succeed over time.
I have a friend who he says, build a business that you never, or build a life that you never have to
Yeah.
retire from. And what he means by that is build a business that you never have to retire from. And what he means by that is saying exactly what you're saying, which is figure out what your strengths and your interests and your passions are, and then look at what of those items are creating the most value, both for yourself personally, but also for the world. Focus on those things that you're highly passionate about that are creating a ton of value, and then scale everything else, leverage everything else. Because if you can if you can either have technology or people doing the things that don't fuel your energy, don't fuel your interests, are distracting you, taking your time away from the things that you love to do, like spending time with family, maybe you want to go on vacations, holidays, things, you can actually design any business. Doesn't matter what it is, you can design any business that you have to enable you to do these things. And the only reason that people don't is because of a mindset that they have that's holding them back. And sometimes those mindsets are really simple, like I can't go away because then the team will think I'm not whatever, and I can't spend time with my family because this deal is too important. Well, what you're really saying is, I would rather take care of this little fire in front of me right now instead of preparing for the opportunity of the future, and I'm putting this little fire in as higher importance than spending time with my family. And so if we recognize the things that are stopping us from optimizing our life to really have a dream life, we'll realize that at the end of the day, it's not the business, it's always been us. It's been the decision making framework that we've had, and we can actually choose to have a different decision making framework that will give us that quality of life that we love, but also give us the value equation that we're looking for, while leveraging everything else. And so um, you shared this with me one time. You said, like, your approach is not to go door knock every single house, and it's not to cold call every single person. You want technology doing that for you. Obviously marketing is incredibly powerful because you get to find people who are going to be interested in your services. You then get to introduce yourself to them, that yes, I exist. That, like, it's sort of, the idea is like, if you have a business and you don't do marketing, it's sort of like, um it's like going, it's literally like um turning off the lights on the open sign on the street. It's nobody's going to know that you're open, nobody's
Or
going
it's
to know
like
that you're
a
there.
gym
So
membership, but you don't actually go to the gym.
yeah, or being a gym owner and
You have no
like
equipment. Yeah,
putting your gym shop in somewhere that like isn't even, like, nobody
yeah,
would ever go. And so so marketing is a great way because you can actually, like, there are people who need your services every
yeah.
single day, right? Every single day, there are people waking up and they're asking themselves, who's the best person or company that could serve me? And the reality is you're right there, and they just haven't heard about you yet. So marketing puts you front and center in front of them. It helps you introduce. But then marketing also does another thing. It's like, okay, now I've introduced myself. You get to build a relationship. You get to, through marketing, It's through the content, through serving and providing value and all these things over time. But marketing also can nurture, create appointments, and even get to people to the place that they are actually looking forward to working with you right now. And you shared with me, you don't do door knocking because you have marketing doing that, because you were basically, your marketing program is setting up appointments for you. Can you describe a little bit about
Yeah,
that?
I mean, it's leveraging multi-channel uh, and leveraging technology and human capital to take someone, for example, on the real estate side. So I've got a ad campaign offering whatever, a free home valuation, or an offer that we use on that side that is a good sort of universal catch-all is we offer a list of recently price reduced homes. So a homes list, but just a little different spin on it. And when someone requests that list, number one, we make good on that request, right? So we get them the information they're looking for. And number two, we're going to have a multi-channel, multimedia follow-up strategy for that leverages email, text, ringless voicemail, video text, video email, and real live humans following up with those folks. Now, the real live human element, they're going to focus their energy on the folks that have already responded. So if we generate 100 people that raise their hand, let's face it, in this scenario, a certain percentage of them were really just curious. When you're talking about Facebook ads, it's interruption marketing, right? It's not intent-based marketing. So there's a percentage of those folks that really, they're just curious. They're just, kicking tires. So they're going to focus we're using technology to build a more targeted audience of people that have gone through several benchmarks, and then we invest the human capital into, all right, let's personally follow up so that we can judge their timing, what they're looking for in a home, a school district, beds and baths, a price range, etc., and then appropriately dispositioning that lead based upon that conversation. And all of the while, it's from a service-based approach, not a sales-based approach. Right? So like,
Can you double
yeah,
click on that?
so
Yeah.
like when I got started in real estate, and I still think that there's some of this going on, where you're taught to knock on doors or cold call and ask, who do you know that's thinking about buying or selling today? Like that is sales. And that can work, but it's not, generally speaking, it's not a welcomed experience for the person receiving the sales pitch, and it's not fun for the person giving the sales pitch. Versus a service-based approach of, hey, I've got this thing. Are you interested? Oh, you are? Let me make good on you're interested. Here's the thing. And oh, by the way, why are you interested? What has you interested? Are you looking to buy a home for you and your family, or are you looking to buy an investment property? Are you thinking about moving soon, or or is this more of a long term? Are you renting currently, or do you have a home you need to sell first before buying? Right, like finding out, being genuinely curious, and finding out, can I help this person? How can we help this person? And when do they need our help? Versus trying to be pushy sales guy and just going for. I understand the logic of the go for no, right? The idea that if I just get enough no's, somebody will eventually say yes. But like, why don't we just get more yeses, right? Let's focus. What you focus on expands. So if we're focusing on go for no, we're going to get a lot more no's. Let's go for the yes. Let's use marketing, words, and video to get the folks that are already in interested, or at least thinking about being quote unquote in market.
That makes
Yeah.
so much sense. It's true. What you focus on does expand, and what you focus on, we can't help but move towards. I think that's the very concept. So when we have a picture in our mind, a vision, let's say, like a clear vision, like we're like, hey, this is what I want my life to look like. We naturally move towards it. Like you can think about it in the sense of um, faith. People have, like, they have a dream or something that they're moving towards. part of it is just that they have clarity of where they're going, and that's the direction they're now going to move. If they're looking at the thing that's negative, like you just described, guess where
Yeah.
they're moving? The brain can't tell the difference. So our bodies just move when we have clarity. We move in that direction, and I think that that's a really important
I'm
statement you just
certain
made.
that you have found this as well. I know this from my own experience. When I work with people who believe what I'm telling them will work, more often than not, it works. When I work with people that are skeptical or want the want the thing to prove to them that it works, more often than not, it doesn't. And I would bet that the most successful street text people are the people that believe from day one this is going to work, or I'm going to make this work, versus, you know, we'll see. We'll see if this works, right? And that's the idea of faith or belief. And then what happens is, if you believe that it's going to work, you're going to find the evidence that it will and it is working, which grows your belief, and it gets you to focus more on the how and why it's working, and it creates a beautiful sort of positive snowball effect versus the exact opposite. And it goes back to something that you said before. It's your mindset, the mindset of um, putting out fires, or designing your life around leveraging technology and people to make sure that you don't have to be the constant putter outer of fires. Like you've got systems and operating procedures in place to handle those things.
Yes, Josh. Now we're gonna have to do a follow-up interview because this is really good, and I feel like we're just getting into
Yeah,
the
yeah.
meat now. But Josh has got a hard stop. He's got another. You are required for another mastermind
Oh,
or session,
I've got
and
my
so
yeah, my mortgage team huddle. Absolutely.
yeah, which I wanted
Yeah.
to get into. I wanted to talk about that and how you're building these different businesses now because you basic yeah, it's very cool, very exciting. Josh, uh, two questions
Yeah.
just as we leave. How can people find you? How can they get a hold of you? And uh, if there's one thing that you want to leave the audience with now, what would that
Um,
be?
so where can you find me? I'm on all the socials. I've got a funky spelling of my name, and an easy place, a resource that we've been building for the real estate community specifically. You can go to wakeup.realestate, and that's a great way to sort of experience some of what we do, and resources and things that we've been putting together. But you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, even TikTok. That who knows how much longer that'll be around. And what I would you said, what would I leave people with? Um, this is hard for me. So I feel, I've mentioned this several times, and I mean this truly. I feel truly blessed that I have had people in my life that have always, or I might actually cry. I've always had people that have encouraged me that I can do it, and I know that that is not the case for many people listening to this, whether it has been parents or friends or other family members who have been skeptical or have projected their insecurities on you and what you're trying to do in life and in business. And I want you to know that if you need someone to encourage you, I am happy to be that person, because I truly believe that anyone can do whatever it is that they desire to do if they have the right environment and the right people encouraging them. And so I feel, at least on some level, Jonathan, that you're trying to do that with this show. And I know that you guys do some amazing things for our real estate community on the street tech side of encouraging and so forth. And so that's what I would leave people with is you can do it. You can, regardless of what anyone else
Yes.
in your in life maybe consciously or subconsciously or directly or indirectly leading you to believe. You are worthy and you can do it.
I'd go like 100%. Like, not only can you do it, you were born to
Yeah.
do it. The challenge you're facing, the obstacle you feel, literally, you were born for that challenge. Like, you are made to do it. You are capable beyond belief, and you are absolutely 100% destined to do the things that you have the desires of your heart. I feel that without a shadow of a doubt, that there's nothing that is impossible that you cannot overcome, that you cannot do if it is in the direction that you feel in your heart aligns with your passions and your interests. So Josh, thank you so much. I love this. That was what a closing. You said you felt like crying. I suddenly felt this sense of like, wow, peace. And so I was just like, whoa, that was
Yeah.
a cool feeling. So thank you so much, man. And yeah, so it really is that. It's just I want to show people that the part of the heart of this is that there are
Yeah.
options. There are options, and there's opportunity, yes, and there's options. And so when we face a challenge, there's an option in front of us, and we get to choose an option. And sometimes we just have to see it. A powerful. I had a quote with the guy, I chatted a guy, Martin. He was doing a documentary in Africa, and he said to me when he got back, he's like, the challenge is that in some of these places, people can't see
Right.
beyond the cloud of
Yeah.
poverty. And guess what? That cloud of poverty, it exists for a lot of people and that poverty, I really feel like it's what it is that if we haven't seen the
Yeah.
options, and so just let's just make the options visible for
Yeah.
everybody.
Amen to that, man. Good stuff.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Josh. Have a great day. Go crush your huddle and talk to you.
Let's go.